Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today I'm with legendary former world boxing champion Steve Robinson, who formerly held the WBO featherweight world title. And it's an amazing story because Steve actually took the world title fight on only 2 days' notice, and we'll get to that story later on. As well as that, Steve also held a number of regional titles, including the EBU European, the WBO Intercontinental, the Welsh Area title, and he also challenged for the Commonwealth British titles and the European again, the WBU World, and I think more than that. I mean, it's a lot of belts. So I hope I haven't missed anything there, Steve. It's a lot of
No,
belts, that is.
about right there. Yeah.
Oh, good. It's a lot. It's a lot of accomplishments. And obviously, one final thing for our viewers is also Steve has a book coming out very soon. It's going to be a very exciting account of his life story, of his amazing life story. And like I say, today we're going to have a chat about his life, his career, and a number of different aspects. So Steve, thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I appreciate that, by the way, because I know you're very busy.
Yeah. Thanks for interviewing me. So yeah, it's nice.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So I got my belts here, mate. I can show you my belts. Yeah.
Have you? Oh, fab. Oh, that'd be awesome. Oh, wow.
See that?
Look at that.
Yeah. My two world belts and my European belt.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That
So I got 2 world belts. I won 1 world belt, right? So about a year and years ago, he gave me a world belt instead of intercontinental belt. It was a WBO intercontinental, but it was like he said, "Oh, you had that belt instead." So I thought, "Oh, that's all right." I got 2. So they're 2 world belts. Yeah, there's my original one there. That's my original one there, and then that's the world belt Barry Earn gave to me many years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. That's
And I
amazing.
got all old school belts. Yeah, like old school, like the old fashioned, the very first make.
Yeah.
And also European belts. Remember the European belt?
Yeah.
No, don't it? Yeah, that's the old school. That's the old school European belt. That is.
Yeah. I was just looking at it. It's amazing.
With the blue strap, like.
Yeah, it's a nice design on it, and it's a yeah, and a nice color as well, and a nice design on it, like type of.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thanks for showing me that, champ. That's really cool. That is. That's That's neat. It's really, really neat. So I'm going to jump into it with obviously, with your boxing career, because it's an amazing story. Because obviously, prior to the world title, your boxing career, at least on paper, was more sort of hit and miss. You know what I mean? I mean, you were in lots of tough fights, some wins, some losses, and everything like that. And it seemed, I know that not all of those losses were necessarily what they appeared to be, because that's boxing, and some were, some weren't. Some very good wins as well. Obviously, you won the Welsh title from Peter Harris. Where I'm getting from is, early in your career, was it a bit of a struggle for you? I mean, what was the sort of the situation in like your first few fights? Like I say, it was a bit hit and miss. What are your thoughts on sort of the start of your pro career from that point of view?
Right, with my pro career, it was obviously I turned professional with not many amateur fights. Only had about probably 20 amateur fights, and I didn't have that much experience as well. So I was in a pro game, learning the game. You know, I was learning the game. I thought I won a lot of my fights, which was like about half a point or 1 point, which I thought I won. So of those 9 losses before I fought for the world title, I thought there was about at least 4 or 5 fights I won. There was a few of them I lost fair and square, like so. So a lot of my fights I got robbed, you know, and a lot of my fights I was fighting away from home in their hometown. They always say you got to knock them off to win in the fights, but I'm very close, pretty close. I won the fights, but that's the way it is. But I learned by it. I learned by my losses, made me a better fighter. And Ronnie Rush was always to push me and say to me, "You know, it's a loss. You know, at the end of the day, you just got to come back and get back into it and train hard to make sure you don't make the mistakes." And I went on to win the world title in the end. So yeah, it's great.
It is good. Yeah, it's just amazing because obviously, you've obviously come through that adversity. And the same thing, that's why I said, I mean, I know a lot of those fights were, different on sort of on paper, so to speak, than what they really were. So that's why I wanted to throw that in there. And obviously it makes winning the world title more amazing because, I mean, you see a lot of guys today where they're sort of unbeaten all the way. You bounce back from a lot of adversity to get, to that point. Now, when it comes to the world title, obviously it's an incredible story. I mean, 2 days' notice. you get a call. I mean, what is it like to get a call for a fight as big as that, on 2 days' notice? I mean, were you shocked? I mean, sort of how, when Ronnie, because I know obviously he rang you and said, we've got a big fight or whatever. What sort of went through your mind when you got the call for the world title?
I had mixed feelings. Like, I was shocked. I was nervous. I was like thinking, should I take that fight? I thought myself, big fights. And Ronnie Rush, he talked me into it. Like, he said to me, if you lose to John Davison, you lose to world champion. I went, yeah, that do make sense. I thought myself, I go in there and fight. I know I can beat the guy. I studied him. He's a come forward fighter, sound like a southpaw. He likes to fight, but then obviously he's opened the punches, but he was very strong. He had a few knockouts in his career. And I just believed in myself, and I thought, I packed my bags. My wife said to me at the time, you must be crazy, but all the best. But I packed my bags, and the rest is history.
Excellent, yeah. And what about when you actually got the call? I mean, what was the situation? Because I've heard the stories about you eating pie and chips, and I've heard, you know what I mean? I've heard it, but for people watching, anyone who doesn't know the story who's watching this, when you actually got the call, yeah?
It's true what happened. Obviously, at the time, I was at my mother-in-law's, maybe knows what I am, and I was just finished off pie and chips and around the bread, and I was full up right up to here. And next minute, I got a phone call from my old trainer, Ronnie Rush, saying about, you got a big fight. And he said a big fight in Newcastle for the world title. And I thought, serious? He said, yeah, 2 days' time. I said, I won't be ready. He said, yeah, well, you're naturally fit, which I was. I was a naturally fit fighter. And I was about 8 pounds over my weight. I was about 9'8". At the time, I was more of a natural featherweight. I could make the weight easy. I probably could have made super bantamweight if I want to. And I was about 8 pounds over, so I had to lose 8 pounds in 2 days. It drained me a little bit. I had to do a couple of runs, wear a lot of layers and everything, and sweat it out. And then I just about made the weight. And actually, the weigh-in was on the day of the fight. So the weigh-in was like 12 o'clock weigh-in, and the fight was in the night. I made the weight, a little bit drained. You see a picture of me and John Davison. I don't know if you've got it. There's an old picture of me and John Davison. You want to see me? I was like that. There was nothing on me. I was very slim, quite a little drawn, a bit tired, but I recovered. From 12 o'clock in the afternoon to about the night of the fight, which was probably I boxed about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I just about recovered then. And and I felt strong and ready for the fight, Yeah, I felt confident. Like I said, I'm never to lose. I'm gonna win this fight for my young son. He's 2.5 years old at the time, Luke. And I was so determined. I was young and hungry. I was 24 years old at the time, and I took the fight, and the rest is history. I won the fight. It's amazing. I had to pinch myself. I won the fight. So yeah, it's great.
Talking about winning the fight, though, champ. I mean, that's another thing. Is obviously, winning a world title. I mean, I'm sure it's something that obviously you have to experience to fully appreciate it, obviously. But I mean, when you actually won the fight and everything like that, I mean, what was the experience like of the the fight itself, but also winning it? I mean, when you actually won the title and everything. I mean, again, what went through your mind? Well, it's not really one question, but just what was your whole experience of the actual fight like? That's what I'm saying, really.
No, it's funny, man. I can still remember the fight in the back of my head. I can still remember the fight in each round, and sometimes you got it's like memories from the actual fights. I won the first 6 rounds quite well. I was outboxing him. I got a little bit tired then halfway through the fight. We won about 7 or 8 rounds. I started getting cramps in my calves because a couple weeks before that fight, I was getting trouble with my calves, my calf muscles. I was getting cramps for the roll work and everything. So, and Ronnie started stepping on my toes, trying to get them cramp away from my, obviously the muscles, like all of that to gap in my calves to hurt me, And I had to dig deep in that fight. And I went through a phase. I probably lost a few rounds, later rounds, but I come back in the 12th round. I almost knocked him out. His gum shield come out, and I think that last round won me the fight really, because obviously they say I was fighting a guy at his hometown, and they say you got to knock him out to win at their hometown, and the fight was close, but I thought I won the fight by about 3 or 4 rounds. But I knew the fight was pretty close, and I thought I got to make sure. And in the last round, I knocked his gum shield out. I threw about 10 to 20 punches at him, and no reply. I thought the referee would have stepped in, but obviously I was tired as well. And the final bell went, and then I thought, oh, if I got this fight. And then when they announced me as Robinson, the WBO World Featherweight Champion, they put my hand up. I had to pinch myself. And actually, the fight was, it wasn't live on TV, because my wife, Angela, she didn't know that I won the world title. I think the fight was around about 10 o'clock or something. And she didn't know until, like, the fight was on ITV, Fight Night. About a couple of hours later, it wasn't live for some reason. I don't know, I'm sure it wasn't live. So I told her I was world champion, and she couldn't believe it, It was a great feeling.
Incredible. That's incredible. It's just amazing in so many ways. But, and obviously after that, I mean, obviously, you had a very, very good run of defenses, and, you were doing really well. Now, what interests me about that, Steve, is people say that after the world title, you were a different fighter and everything like that. And I'm not sure if that's true, or if it was more just that your natural talent was showing, because obviously straight after, I mean, you had really good wins over like Freddie Cruz, you had the points win, you had ninth round knockout over Duke McKenzie, who's obviously an amazing talented fighter himself, and so on and so forth. Do you feel that, I mean, again, it's not necessarily one question, but what sort of changes do you think you went through? Do you think your natural talent was just showing more, or do you think you actually felt more confident? Or, I mean, after you won the title, what changes did you go through in that way?
Actually, winning the world title, it's sort of like maybe a better fighter, but I always had that talent there. At the end of the day, to win a world title, you got to have a talent, a lot of talent. Some people got their own talent, their own way. I had a good jab. I'd done the basics well. I had a good defense, my footwork and everything. I was a very strong fighter as well. That's important. But I always had the talent there. And but winning the world title, I was 24 years old at the time. I was young, still learning, and it made me a better fighter. And I thought to myself, I'm determined to keep this title. I had a young boy at the time, Luke. He was only 2.5 years old at the time. And I thought to myself, I got to keep this title for Wales, I was the first world champion in Wales for 25 years. The one before me was Howard Winston. He won it back in 1968. That was the year I was born as well. So, and I won the world title. It was the first. I put Wales back on the map, and I'm proud to be, obviously a world champion. And also, I don't want to mention about Black Lives Matter, but I'm the first Black Welsh man to win the world title. There was no other black man ever won world title in Wales. So, and many of them in England, obviously, but not Wales. So, which is I'm proud of as well, very proud. And I defended it many times, and obviously my defense is very, very entertaining. I come to fight. I don't go in there and tip and tap. I just go in there and fight, box my way in, get inside. I think that was a very exciting fight. I had a good following as well. A lot of Welsh fans all over Wales, even English fans as well. So I had a good following, and I believe I was a good world champion. I proved to people that it was no fluke. I won the world title short notice when I defended against ex-world champions like Duke McKenzie, Colin McMillan, Paul Hodgkinson. So they brought the best on me, I'm proud of what I achieved as well.
Excellent.
That's my aim. Now, one to produce a world champion as a boxing coach. So,
yeah, absolutely. Oh, fantastic. We'll talk about that now in a minute, actually, because that's another thing. But before we get there, obviously, yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to talk about the amazing run that you had afterwards. It's extraordinary. Obviously, the one other fight really. I know you've had a lot of fights, and we don't really have time to talk about them all. But one I do want to touch upon is obviously Nassim Hamed, obviously, Prince and everything, and your title lost. Now, I know that's probably one of mixed feelings, because obviously you stepped in against one of the best in the world and the best in history, and obviously it didn't go your way, but it's still something to be proud of. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about that fight as well, and then we can move on to a few other things. But yeah, I mean, your fight against Nassim, I mean, Naz, I mean, what are your thoughts on that fight, on your performance? What was it like to sort of step in there against him?
Well, I tell you the truth about the fight, right? I took the fights. probably 3.5 weeks notice. I come back from a honeymoon from abroad, and the next minute they said I got to fight him by a certain time, and then if I don't fight him, they would strip me of the world title. I probably underestimated him, and I thought myself, he's a fighter coming up to my weight. I was an actually bigger fighter and bigger weight, an actually bigger guy than him. I probably underestimated him. I wish I had that bit more preparation against Naz. No excuses. I didn't really complain at the time, but I should have really just given my title and maybe get him to fight someone else, and I would have probably boxed away on the winner of the fight. But I took the fight, and he was a good fighter. That was probably one of his best performances. He was a very unorthodox boxer, but I feel like I got a bit stitched up in that fight. Really, that's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't want to mention names, and also for a court case, I don't want to mention names. We're promoters. My mind wasn't quite there. No excuses, but like I said, sometimes when I was on a comeback winning fights after I lost the world title, I was on a good comeback. I was trying to rematch with Nasty Nami if I could, but somehow it didn't come along, and that's the way it is, isn't it? But he was a good fighter.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to hear because something. I mean, when you watch a fight like that, you don't always know, what's sort of going on behind the scenes. And obviously, we both know there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of other things that go on. And obviously, people in boxing know that, but people, just watch the fight. They don't always see like the other factors. So that's the reason for throwing that in there. Now, obviously, just wrapping up on your boxing career because I want to get to the training and I want to get to some other things. After that, I mean, you still had a very, very busy career and a very successful career still, for a while after that. Are there any key fights that you'd like to talk about? Are there any sort of after the world title, any fights that particularly stand out that you're very proud of? Because I know you had a lot. I mean, I know we had, you had other titles and you had challenges for British and Commonwealth. You had this and that, and you were packing a lot in. But are there any fights after the world title that specifically sort of stand out as ones that you're, very proud of?
You actually winning a European title away from home. I boxed Manuel Cavill. It was I was an underdog. I boxed. I beat him in Spain, and that was a close. I thought I'd done enough to win the fight by a few rounds, but I won it by split. But by coming back, I won a European title against Manuel Cavill.
Yeah.
So
very good.
That was. I won. I beat him in Spain. I did. Yeah. So that was. I was quite proud of that, and I defended it. And I thought I was ready to have a rematch in Naz, but it didn't come off. So yeah.
Yeah. Good. It's a good insight. Now, there's only one more thing about that I'm very interested in because people talk a lot about the the physical side of training, which is obviously essential. But you obviously in boxing you've got to have a good mental game. You've got to have a good you've got to have good sort of mental preparation. And obviously you were going into people's backyards. You were fighting people in their hometowns and in their home countries even, and you were sort of going as well as in Wales. What was your mentality to that? I mean, did you sort of feel did you feel any extra pressure or anything, or did you just sort of take it in your stride, or what was the mental side of it like for you leading up to certain fights, if that makes sense?
Well, I just focus. I'm a kind of guy. I'm very strong-minded. Because when I boxed actually John Davison, I was away from home, and we had a massive crowd there. It wasn't a big arena. I think it was about 4,000 people in Newcastle, and he had a massive crowd. When they announced his name, the crowd was so loud, and then when they announced me, it was a couple of cheers here and there. But yeah, like I said, I'm quite mentally strong. At the end of the day, when you're in the box ring, it's just you and him. So it's a lot, so you just block up the crowd of people around you, and you just get on with it. And once the bell goes, it's just you and him. So it didn't make that much difference if I was fighting at home all the way. But obviously, it is a bit of an advantage when you're fighting at home. But you just focus on winning a fight, innit? So you train hard, you put in all the hard work, all the weeks and weeks of work, train hard. You got things on your mind. You got to feel yourself right. You go now, try and win the fights. Use your boxing knowledge and try not boxing. And once you are boxing, then you get there. Then so boxing's over the art is hitting them, not getting hit. So that's fun,
Excellent. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Now let's move into the training a little bit, because obviously, and I know there's loads more fights we could talk about, but that's a good overview of it. So let's talk about the training. So obviously, since you retired, you've been training people, and that side of things is going very well. Now, one of the things I'm going to ask, this is a little bit of a funny question, but you'll see where I'm going. Obviously, given everything you've accomplished in boxing, you've got a lot of knowledge to sort of bring to, the people that you train. And I don't want you to give loads and loads away, because if people want to learn from you, they should obviously come to the gym, right?
Hello.
But if there was a few key things that you sort of think are important that you've taken from your career over to, the people that you train, if that makes, what would they be? And I know that's a bit of a funny one, but obviously you've learned a lot of lessons, in your career. You've got an incredible amount of knowledge and experience. So what are some of the key things that you sort of take from that to impart to sort of pass on to the people that you train, basically? That's the question.
Well, some of my training is quite old school, but sometimes it's new school. So I always find road work is important, running, and when you run at a good pace. Don't trot, just run and run up the hills. Do the sprint. That's important. Like when I was a trainer, I used to do like 5 to 6 miles a day, 5 days a week. I do a lot of running. But now the way I try to push my boxes now today, and like I get Jacob training, and he does running. He do run. I've been running as much as I used to. I guess I'm doing sprint work, track work, which is it's good for the fast twitch muscles, like sprints. Because at the end of the day, when you're fighting, it's like a bit of a sprint. You're then go nice and easy. Next minute, you at the pace. So it's a bit like sprinting, really. So at the end of the day, boxers are not marathon runners. We're built to be like explosive or endurance, whatever. You gotta have all-round fitness to be a great fighter. You gotta have the speed and the power and the endurance. You get some fighters that are not very hard punchers, but they're very fit. They've got a good work rate. I was in between, right? I'm not saying I was a one-punch knockout specialist, but I was heavy-handed. I punched my weight. I got punch hard to the body. Some people may have a natural one-punch power. I feel like that my son Jacob got one-punch power. Once you catch it right, you've gone and you just got to believe in yourself. You start believing in yourself, trying to think like his father, being strong-minded like me. He's going to go all the way. But like I said, there's many fighters out there. They've got to believe in themselves, and so many talented fighters out there. But sometimes they don't really use their talent to full advantage. So that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it leads me to to a couple of things really that I want to ask. But let's talk about Jake for a bit, because obviously he's moving up the rankings very, very well. Now, most people watching this will know, but for anyone who doesn't know, Jacob's obviously a very, very talented fighter. 8-0. He's had some brilliant knockouts as well. Obviously, I've been there for a couple of them, and to saying about one punch power. I mean, some of them have sort of taken my breath away like that. But he's very, very talented. But the training with him, I mean, I would say that and it's, bearing in mind, it's just my view now, that he's ready for sort of some form of title soon and things like that. But I mean, what are your thoughts on his training and his progression? And again, it's not really one question that I have, but obviously I've been in the gym, and you have a great training dynamic. But let's just talk a little bit about his training, sort of in general, in terms of how it's going and some of the developments there.
Yeah, his training is good. I train him hard. I give him obviously different routines, very similar to what I was to train, but obviously a bit different. And he just got to start believing in himself now. He's got natural punching power. He's a very explosive boxer as well. He's very hard. He's got a lot of talent as well, but he just got to start believing in himself. Sometimes he switches off when he's fighting and knows he could do a little bit more. But it's all down to experience, it will come with experience. Once he starts believing in himself that bit more, you see a different fighter. I think he's ready for like a Welsh title fight or some kind of intercontinental title fight. He's more of a takes his time. He likes to pace himself, and then he opens up with big shots. Like he's like a sprinter, ready to boom, and he pounces on you. He just pounces on you when you drop your hands. Like that time when you knocked out Hugh Phillips. I know he was only a journeyman, but the way he caught him, he would have caught any featherweights out there. He would have knocked them out. He was just a very loose punch. It was like corkscrew kind of uppercut punch, He took him out that one punch, and like I said, he got one punch power. Like so many fighters out there got that one punch power, you know, which I never had it. But I had one punch power to the body, but if you catch him to the body in the right place, especially when you throw the left hook to the body, that's the weaker side. Like obviously all your kidneys and your heart is on that side, so you catch him right, they'll go, you know, and they can't be the counter tenant. So when I caught Duke McKenzie many years ago, I knew straight away. Once I hit him like in that short rib, boom, he was on the floor. He fell on the floor. He went, and then I knew, you're not getting up. And I was, you know, obviously, yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, it's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, fantastic. So good. So the training side of things is going very, very well then. I'm glad to hear, and obviously, yeah, that's good. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about this book, because I mentioned that earlier, and obviously that's something that I'd like to go back to and talk about a bit more. Obviously, you know, the book is, as far as I know, it's sort of in progress. You know, story of your life, but obviously I don't know much about it. I mean, I know Mandy Chambers a little bit from. When she was working with Tony Borg on his biography, but in terms of this book, for myself, for everyone watching, you know, how's it coming along? What's going to be contained in there? Just a little overview of what's happening with that, basically.
Well, me and Mandy been talking now for about a year now. I was hoping for the book to be out sooner, but obviously this coronavirus and the setback and everything. Yeah, she's a nice lady. She wrote a couple of books for Tony Borg. She's very patient, very open, quite kind-hearted person as well. Like, and she's old school. I think it's nice that a lady's writing a book on me. She's a good writer, and she knows her stuff. And she's very passionate about writing a book for me as well. I think it's going to be a great book. It's talking about my life when I was growing up and everything, and different things what happened, and you know, when I was world champion. Yeah, it's great, and I think she's going to write a great book for me, and looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, you know, champ, I'll be the first in line to get a copy of that, you know, because it'll be a fantastic read, but it will. But yeah, like for everyone watching, keep an eye out for Steve's book. He'll be coming very soon, and it'll be an exciting read. And you know what, Steve, I mean, just it's a little off topic this, but I think it's fantastic that you're telling your story in your own words type of, I mean, I know she's writing it, but like in your own words type of thing. That's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So, right, so a couple of other things now. There's another question I wanted to ask you. This sort of, it's a bit of a funny one. It's going back to the gym and going back to your training side of things. Is when you train a fighter and things like that, can you tell sort of quite early on if they're going to achieve or do well? Or do you sort of have to work with them for a little bit and sort of, you know, figure them out and get to know them? Or can you tell straight away? Or, I mean, what's the process, you know, when you're working with someone in the gym like that?
Yeah, it depends if they're an amateur or professional, but obviously you get some professionals. They got some professionals got bad habits, you know, and sometimes it's hard to get off those bad habits. I go the way I train. I train. You know, I do the basics right and make sure your hands in the right place. But at the end of the day, if you're a loose fighter, you're a loose fighter. You know, if you want to box with your hands lowish, but as long as you're moving your head and you're being loose, that's important. Like, but with my style was like tight guard. Don't get through my guard. Obviously, I was like through the jab, and I didn't move my head as much. But obviously, I had a good tight guard, and I like to push you back with that jab. And a jab is the best punch in the book. It takes you around the world, you know. So, you know, if you haven't got a jab, you're not a boxer. So that's important. Yeah. Jab. That sets everything up.
Yeah. Now, there's another thing that I think will be interesting for people watching, which we touched on actually at the beginning, like before, you know, with about your, you know, how fit you are and how you sort of maintain your fitness to a very high level, which interests me a lot because obviously, even though you've been retired for however many years, I think it was 2002, wasn't it, that you hung up? But obviously, but since then you've maintained, well, an extreme level of fitness, really. So, I mean, what sort of drives you to be as disciplined as you are, even though you're retired? Because you see some boxers, I mean, even Naz himself is obviously, you see the weight he's put on and all that. You've probably seen pictures of him and things. But obviously, you're like the opposite of that. I mean, you're in supreme, probably as good as when you were fighting or whatever. So what drives that sort of What drives you to stay as fit as you are? Basically, that's the question, really.
Well, it's just in my mind. When I was a young kid, I was a very active kid as a young kid. I liked sport in school. I was like playing sport, all kinds of sport. But I loved boxing. When I started boxing, I was 9 years old. I loved the game, and I just loved training. When I retired, I felt like I still want to keep training. I was still sparring for the beer. When I retired, I was sparring with professionals, amateurs. And then I stopped sparring now, the last few years now. I thought myself, I don't want to keep on sparring now. I don't be taking more knocks in my head, taking my brain cells away. But, obviously, I'm still there. My head's still there anyway. So, but yeah, I just love the training. This is in your blood, obviously, I got a different kind of fitness now compared to what I was years ago. Obviously, I was more cardio fit when I was fighting. But this kind of fitness I got now, I got like a lot of strength fitness now. I got CrossFit fitness is very strong, and I could pull up my weights, do a lot of pull-ups. I could deadlift, twice my weight. So yeah, it's now I got a different kind of fitness. I do a bit of weight training as well, which added to my training. But I never done weight training when I was a fighter, and now this day and age, I think weight training for today it's good, but obviously not lifting too much heavy weights. But obviously you got to move the weight quick as you can. It's the same when you're punching. So I think I never done weight training as a fighter, but I'd always done a lot of body weights exercises. And right now I do a lot of body weight exercises, weight training. I mix it up. I don't do much punching. It's more years of punching when your hands and wrists get a bit tender. So yeah, I just love the training, with the bodyweight stuff. I post a couple of videos myself doing stuff. I like to show off, and and the kind of training I do, which is very good. I get Jacob to do similar training to what I do as well. I mean, the bodyweight exercises you can't beat. If you can't pull up your own body weights, and then you're not a strong person, I believe. And people think, oh, I do weight training, I do bicep curls and all that, but then that don't mean nothing. But body weights is the most important of all. It's the same when you're boxing, it's all body weights, isn't it? So if you can punch your weights and you got a fitness as well, that's important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Excellent. That's a really good insight into it, Stephen. It's something that's fascinating because from a number of angles, because of the mental discipline, but also because basically, you show that age is just a number. Now, I know that that's a funny thing to say because I always believe that age is just a number, but I don't know how to put it over really, but there's a lot of people who sort of think that, particularly in boxing as well, when they retire, they sort of pace it down a lot and everything. And I just love how you've kept going, and it's just very inspirational for people. That's all, and particularly the fact that you are still training, obviously in this lockdown. You've got ways of training from home and all that. I mean, it's fantastic sort of inspiration for people. So yeah. So another thing that I was going to touch on is a more sort of it's not really a deep question, but it's sort of a little bit more like that, is if you had to give advice to young boxers, to succeed. Now again, I know if they want to know a lot of this, they could come to the gym, and I know we've touched on it earlier with being strong-minded and things, but what would you say sort of is essential for a good fighter to succeed? What makes a good fighter? Because you often see guys, like we said earlier, that are very, very fit, but they don't believe in themselves or whatever, and you see guys that are so talented and yet they don't maximize it or whatever. And then you see other guys that you don't think will necessarily do as much, and they go really far. So if you had to give advice to sort of young boxers, maybe they're amateur, maybe just starting professional, maybe anything like that, and they wanted to make it and win titles and all that, what would you say to them? What would your advice be?
Well, I just got to say to them, you just got to believe in yourself. You just got the will to win and the will to keep on training hard. Sometimes when you train hard, you train every day. Some people can't handle the training. I think the training is important, and the mental toughness as well. Because when you're preparing for a fight, you got to prepare for a fight 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, whatever, for the world title fight, if you will have at that level. It's important to keep yourself focused. You got a lot of talented fighters out there, like you said. It's never seemed to achieve what I should achieve, I believe I was talented, but I know there's many out there, probably a little bit more talented than I was, but I had that grit and that will to win. And it's funny, is sometimes fighters, they be a good amateur, and then when they go turn professional, they don't turn out to be a good fighter. So it's funny, and or sometimes it'll be vice versa. They're average amateurs. I never done much as an amateur, and I ended up being a world champion, a world professional champion. So that's important. It's all down to the mind, the mindset. You've got a strong mindset, and that's important. They say you can, you can be a world champion from training from in the gym, and you got to be in your mind. You got to be mindset. Mindset's important, So if you've got a mindset, the mind is a very powerful thing, So they say we don't think the full our brains, So when you're thinking about what you're doing and you believe in yourself and you love it, you're just going to achieve it. Yeah. Even if you believe in yourself, you could have been a world champion yourself. You just got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. Excellent. But yeah, I agree 100%. And it's why, I'm always sort of talking to people, even in these videos, about the mental side of things. Because I do think that a lot of people sort of neglect that or whatever. And you can develop your mind like you develop your body as well, even though some of it, I think you're born with that strong will, people are or not, but I still think you can develop your mind like you can develop a muscle or whatever, and it's an important thing, and that's why I'm always talking to people about that, because I think it's often overlooked. So, we obviously we've talked a lot about the past, we talked a bit about the future with the book and with baby Jake and with different things, but one thing I would like to say is earlier on you touched upon, you mentioned wanting to train a world champion and that being sort of your goal and your aim now and things. But in terms of future aims and future goals, what are they? What I mean is, again, it's a big question, I suppose. But I mean, it's, over the next few years now, like what are you aiming for? What's sort of keeping you driven? Just everything like that, really.
Yeah, I just want to obviously, I'm a personal trainer. I train clients one-to-one, and obviously want to build my business up a little bit. I got a good client base, but more important of all, I'm a professional boxing coach. I just want to produce some kind of champion, even if it's a British champion, European champion, and most of all, a world champion. But because I've been a world champion myself, they say sometimes great fighters don't end up being good trainers, but I believe I'm a good trainer. I believe I could make you into a world champion. That's if you put your mind to it. That's important. And I didn't have a good upbringing, but I was it was in me. It's in me to obviously be tough for myself, achieve what I want to achieve. The same with any other fighter, Sometimes fighters are very spoiled, and then they get spoon fed and everything. But obviously, all the great fighters all come from the ghettos, isn't it? So, the poor backgrounds, and I look at like even Lee Selby. He's brought up, in a bit of a ghetto, like in a way, but same with me as well. And all the best fighters, they come up the best then, And same with Mike Tyson, he was brought up in a ghetto. So yeah, you find that. I was a hungry fighter, and obviously I believed in myself, and I just wanted to be world champion.
So there's only one other thing there that sort of actually just come to me as you were talking, is in terms of other fighters that you sort of admire, and other fighters that you sort of respect or whatever. Now I don't mind if it's fighters from Wales, if it's fighters you admired when you were growing up, maybe fighters you admire now. I'm not sure. I really don't mind where you go, but in terms of fighters that you sort of personally respect and sort of admire and whatnot, let's throw some names out there. Who are they?
Muhammad Ali. When I was a young boy, I was always admired him. Sugar Ray Leonard, I was admired him as well. Obviously Mike Tyson, I did mention him, and even the fighters of today, and the past, and we're on my time as well. Like even Robbie Reagan was a good fighter. We trained together. We bring each other on. We used to do a lot of sparring together. I admire Lee Selby. He's a great fighter. So obviously there's a few fighters up there I admire, and obviously Roy Jones Jr., great fighter. Obviously Mayweather Senior. Mayweather Jr. Not Senior. Mayweather Senior actually won a bad fight, didn't he? He won a world champion. I know his uncle was a world champion, but So I'm nice fighters, and it's nice to look up to certain fighters. And it inspires you, don't it? So that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good. So, champ, that's pretty much everything that sort of I was looking to talk about, and we've covered like a nice mix of stuff there. But you know, but before we wrap it up, I just wanted to make sure, is there anything that you'd specifically like to talk about? I don't mind anything. Is there anything at all that you're holding on to that you would like to sort of cover, or are you, if you're all good, that's cool. But I'm just giving the sort of option in case there's anything there really.
You know, like I said, one day I like to produce a world champion. If I can, but or some kind of champion if I could. And yeah, just live a healthy life. That's important. You know, obviously, I don't drink, I don't smoke. It's the same for a sportsman. Any sportsman, they shouldn't drink or smoke, because at the end of the day, you're an athlete. If you're a professional boxer, you're an athlete. You know, we're all athletes. So any athlete, they shouldn't drink or smoke at all. Really. I know people say, "Oh, but occasional drink after a fight," but you're putting all poison in the body, which is bad. And I believe you got to be pure. Your body's a temple, and that's why I still keep training. I like to show people I'm still a fit person. I'm 51 years old now, and you know, I feel like I'm 31. So yeah, it's important to have a good lifestyle. Yeah, so it'd be amazing if I could produce a world champion. It'd be even better if like my son Jacob, baby Jake, was a world champion. But then, like I said, you got to believe in yourself. You know, if he had my mindset, obviously now, you know, obviously he'd be world champion. But like I said, he got a lot of talent. Like I said, he's got a mind, got to switch on to say, right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to train harder. I'm going to win the fights, and you know, the will to win. That's important, like, you know. And the same with any other fighters out there. You know, if you've got a lot of talent, you got to like believe in yourself and put the work in. Have the right, you know, obviously eat the right food, live the right life, and that's important. It's important to have a good family life as well. If you've got a bad family life, things are disturbing you. You know, you've got to have a good woman behind you as well, which I had. And yeah, it's important. And you know, wish you all luck. Then wish you the best luck.
Yeah. Fantastic. It's a fantastic message, champ. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
And I think that's something like that will encourage people. You know,
Yeah.
because hearing it from yourself, you know, you've been there, you've done it all really. And so obviously, you know, it's fantastic advice. And yeah, I mean, as for baby Jake, I mean, you know, I think he's such a talented fighter. And I don't think personally now, just my, bear in mind, it's just my opinion, but I don't think we've seen the best of him yet.
No.
I think that the best is yet to come by a long way.
Yeah.
But that mental game, but then, you know, it's time, isn't it? I mean, you know, he's young, and so that's that. But yeah, I mean, so that's, like I say, that's everything that I wanted to say. But you know, I appreciate everyone watching this, video, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, champ. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure, you know.
Yeah. Before you go, it was a boxer called Mo Hassan.
Yeah.
I don't remember him. He's Somali kind of African. He passed away over a month ago or so. He was a
Yeah.
very talented boxer. I trained him a few times as an amateur, and obviously he had a car crash, and he was so talented. He could have gone all the way as well. You know, obviously, like to say, I'm sorry about him. And obviously, I know he could have gone a long way, but yeah.
Yeah.
See.
No, that's a good one.
Yeah,
It's a good one to drop in, because I remember hearing about that, you know, at the time, obviously, and I was quite shocked, because, you know,
I think he was the most talented boxer I ever trained, and he's I was to show him all the combination. He picked up just like that, you know. And he's so talented, and he was, I think, he's about 6 foot something, and he's 6 foot, about 6 foot. He's around about super bantamweight, and that's so tall for the fighter. And I think he would have gone all the way.
Yeah.
It's sad, like, you know. So
Yeah.
really,
It was terribly shocking, actually, because I'd heard about him from around the boxing scene. I didn't really know him personally, but I sort of heard of his talent, type of thing, and I remember sort of seeing it on and I was quite shocked. I was like, bloody hell, because, you know, young, he's like 17, 18, wasn't he? Something around that. Yeah, and it's a terrible thing, shocking.
I think one time he wanted me to train as a professional. He wanted me to turn pro with me, like, and I think he signed up with Gary Lockett in the end. But yeah, he was very talented. He could have gone all the way, definitely.
Yeah. It's a sad one, but yeah, I'm glad you got that in there, champ, because it's good to give his name a mention and everything like that. Yeah. Well, like I say, I mean, once again, I mean, I appreciate your time very much. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
So thanks, mate. Yeah, I appreciate that. I believe like I had a fair bit of recognition as a world champion, but I feel like I could have got that bit more recognition the way I won the world title 2 days notice, and I probably was an underrated world champion. I proved people wrong every time I defended my title. I think they was trying to get me beat from the start, but obviously Frank Warren was throwing all these ex-world champions at me, and I beat them. I beat them all. Like I beat like Conor McMillan, Duke McKenzie, Paul Hoskinson, all them people, So I feel like I achieved a lot because I beat ex-world champions, and I always give them really good fights. I was the first world champion in 25 years as well, from Wales. The one before me was obviously Hal Winston. I feel like I should have had a little bit more recognition for winning a world title. I obviously putting Wales back on the map.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.